to Elder Futhark Rune Divination 101. Today we will be discussing the rune of Jera. I realize it's been some time since I uploaded the video once again. I've just been busy as usual. Nothing serious, nothing wrong or anything. Just spacing out these videos due to everyday mundane activities and stuff like that. As you may have noticed, I have chosen a different rune poem for this video. Normally I would have cited the Anglo-Saxon rune poem. Reason for this is because the Anglo-Saxon poem with Jera starts referring to God, the Holy King of Heaven, which I didn't quite feel suited the Germanic origins of the Elder Futhark, because obviously that has a pagan origin, whereas Judeo-Christian mythology, whatever you want to call it, has been more interwoven with the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. But we'll get to that at a different time. I probably will be doing videos on the Elder or on the Anglo-Saxon Futhark as well after I'm done with the younger Futhark. I mean, we'll see where that ends up, but we'll get there eventually. So let's get cracking on this video. The meaning of Jera is, well, year, as you may guess from its from the sound of the word. It also may mean the harvest. It implies bounty reaped, rewards earned, but usually it does not represent in and of itself an end. Basically what I mean by that is it may be a temporary respite, it may be a temporary celebration, but it is not a promise of permanence, of stability in and of itself. Because Jera being the year, it encompasses everything of a good and a bad. Basically, what that means is, while you may celebrate the harvest, winter might be coming. Because, we are obviously discussing a rune set that has its origins in European, Western, Northern, Central European tradition, which means that due to the weather patterns and the seasons, the way they function there, as I know, as I'm from the Netherlands, the traditional harvesting season would be at the end of autumn before the winter. Would be the biggest harvesting season. So winter would follow this harvesting season. Winter, especially back in the day, before we had our technology that we have right now available, would be a quite dangerous of a time, because if there was like a famine, or you for some reason did not have enough food stored, things could get pretty rough, even deadly. So that's something to keep in mind, because globally harvests happen in different times and different seasons, or different time periods of a year, I should say, not different seasons necessarily. So yeah, that's kind of something I wanted to clarify a little bit. However, Jera is also something that follows winter, because it comes after Isa. And Isa represents ice, which is metaphorical winter in this case. It symbolizes the movement after winter. It symbolizes the resuming of growth, of life, of the birth of things, of the development of things, whereas Isa, as we have discussed, tends to represent stagnation. It represents being constrained, constricted, having to wait out things. So yeah, it is the 12th rune of the 24 runes in the Elder Futhark, thus making it the 4th rune of the second 8. This kind of makes it the it is the halfway rune basically, and it is kind of a fitting rune to mark this point in the Futhark. The modern day letter equivalent of Jera is the letter J, like in joust, or joy. Associated astrological body would be the sun, The associated element to me would very strongly be the earth due to its relation to the harvest, crops, and all those things. The associated gods are the twins Frey and Freya, due to their relation with earth, bounty, fertility, uh, all those things that are related with those gods. With those gods. Jera has no reverse due to its shape, um, so it only has a converse and an upright, which also by default means that this video will be a little shorter than some other ones as usual. Because Jera is kind of the halfway point in the Elder Futhark, as I have mentioned before in previous couple videos, I will be uploading some other videos that I have been, receiving requests for, like, what does it mean to walk the shaman's path, other stuff like spirit keeping, all that stuff, conjurations, basically stuff I kind of wanted to talk about for a while, but I've actually received requests for from people because I don't want to just have this channel be just the Elder Futhark Rune channel. I want to discuss more varied topics and branches of magic and spirituality, all that stuff. But I got a lot of plans, very little time. Just bear with me where it goes, basically. Um, so back to the rune itself, Jera. Being the 12th rune in the Elder Futhark, like I said, it provides a very nice marker for just rewards earned. It is a basically a pitch stop, if you can call it that in some ways. It provides just this brief respite, this celebration, this appreciation for what you currently have or what you have received just now on your path in general, because Jera is, as I said, not a promise of an end. It is not an end in and of itself, but it is rather a point where you can reap your rewards. You can, strengthen yourself, but you must always remain aware that there is always more to come when Jera shows up in your divination. Um, However, this doesn't mean that celebrations in and of themselves aren't that they aren't justified, or that you should approach it with this sense of gloom and dread, like, oh, there might be other stuff that might go wrong later on. Oh yeah, that's life. Suck it up, basically. Jera is actually also kind of a, usually it's like a boon, uh, a gift that you have been bestowed or that you have reaped for yourself, that will allow you to address the upcoming upheavals and upcoming trials and tribulations, and it basically helps you be equipped for the upcoming path that you are still walking on. And in this, actually, I feel that Jera is a very symbolic rune, because in the old way of thinking, everything was a cycle. Everything was a circle. There weren't like lines as our modern Judeo-Christian culture is so fond of thinking. Like you're born, you walk your life's path, and you die, and then you go to heaven or hell or purgatory or whatever. I mean, it's like it's the wheel of the year. Jera is sometimes also called the wheel of the year, and this provides a nice insight into how you should view things. I mean, even death is just another beginning in that line of thinking. I mean, you die in this physical body and you move on to whatever destiny awaits you after this life, but I mean, you could say, hey, I might reincarnate, which means that you're going to be back in this same plane, on the same planet, or elsewhere. It is never an end in and of itself, is basically what I'm trying to illustrate. I mean, everything that we are will, in some way, shape, or form, live on, because we are, beings, spirits that inhabit a body, and we might go on to, various destinations. I'll leave it up to you to decide what that destination for you personally is going to be. I'm not going to, infringe that much on your personal beliefs over there. But I mean, I have my experiences with that. Yeah. So the point in case is, Jera is a cycle. It is not a linear path. And this is actually another thing where I feel the Elder Futhark is a nice demonstration of those kinds of things. The end of the Elder Futhark, the last rune of the Elder Futhark, is kind of disputed. Some people say it's Ophila or Odal or Ophala, or however they want to pronounce it. Personally, I prefer Ophila. Some say it's Dagas, which is my personal preference, because I feel it just makes sense, both in the way Dagas is shaped, because it's like these, it's like these two opposing triangles that interlock. And because it's the dawn, it's the transformation rune, which basically means that you have completed one cycle, but you're now transforming and moving on to the beginning of the Elder Futhark again. And you're now at a higher plane, you're now on a different level. And you basically ascend that way through all lives that you have, through every experience that you have. So I feel that is how Jera nicely fits in the halfway of the Elder Futhark compared to the beginning and the end of the Elder Futhark. This is even seen in the Norse Germanic mythology of Ragnarok, where this particular cycle, this particular world, and even some associated gods, they die, and a new world takes its place with Balder at its head. And even then, you see that an end is never really an end. An end is merely a beginning to another cycle, another piece of the chain of existence. And this is what we see in Jera's meaning of spring following winter, because in winter, most plants in 4 climate seasons, like where I'm from, they die off. They're they can't really resist the cold. Some of them obviously do, but most of them die off. I mean, that's what autumn is, right? The trees shed their leaves and everything just appears gray and stale and dead, and everything rebirths in spring. And I feel that Jera is that to Isa. Isa is the winter. Jera follows that. So winter gives way to the renewed life, and so does Jera signify those kinds of things. So we come then to the actual divination meanings. Let's just discuss the global meaning of the rune Jera, or my interpretation of this rune. Jera upright tends to imply rewards of whatever kind, as I mentioned, that are awaiting you, or that you are about to reap, or that you are currently even reaping, regarding your specific query, your specific question that you're asking the runes of. It implies, resumed movement after a restraint that you have to suffer through. It can also imply the natural evolution of a person, situation, circumstance, or maybe even a connection or bond between things or people. Because, as I mentioned, we are all continuously on a path. We're all continuously, growing in our own ways. And with this, Jera is a reminder that the end just is not in sight yet. It is the promise of more things to come, more trials, more tribulations, a further journey ahead. In this, it also cautions us to remain focused on our path. It cautions us to remain alert. It cautions us to be grounded to the bountiful earth. It reminds us to remain grateful for what we have, to celebrate it, to honor it, not to squander what we have, or to let it go unappreciated, as is so often the case with things that we possess. You know, we take it for granted, but Yura kind of shows us that, hey, celebrate it now because tomorrow it may be gone because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Because winter might, for all you know, strike sooner than you realize. I mean, Yura in its very shape, it holds kind of like this duality in itself. I mean, it shows the good and the bad, the light and the dark. It is perhaps not for no reason that Yura shows like two Kanas runes that are like interlocking like this or like this, depending on who you ask. Um, you know, I mean, Kanas is the torch rune, it's the fire rune, it's illuminating, warming. It can be pleasant, but upside down, it can be a lack of light, a lack of warmth, or a heat that is too strong, that is scorching. So in this here, very nicely represents all these polar opposites that work well together because they are simply a part of nature, simply a part of existence, simply a part of life. In that they exist as opposites, and everything in between meets each other in the center. And basically, it advises you to take the good and the bad of your life. The specific circumstance that you're finding yourself in, the specific circumstance that you're inquiring about, with your reading that you're doing, and to see them for what they are. I mean, if you're in a bad situation, there are lessons to be learned that you can profit from. If you're in a good situation, fantastic. Celebrate it, enjoy it, enjoy what you have while it lasts. But it also advises us to not be like a passive observer, or at least not just a passive observer, because sometimes it's not really good to sit down and shut up and just observe. But also sometimes we have to, oftentimes I would say actually, because I am not a fan of sitting there and let the world around me, be influenced by just wishful thinking. Because at the end of the day, as far as I've seen, wishful thinking does that. Um, you know, so be an active participant in what you're trying to achieve. I mean, you can, like bargain with gods or spirits or deities to get something that you want, but at the end of the day, you have to provide a vessel for your wish to be granted. I mean, if you're looking for wealth, take actions that cause wealth. Like I mean, apply for a job. Set up your own business. Do whatever it takes, and your magic, your intent, your um, all those things will assist you with these things. And so instead of worrying about tomorrow, trusting your inner power, instead of feeling like a helpless victim, but take those steps. Don't just think that things are just going to come about, because right now things may be good, or that you're never going to get things done because right now things may be bad. This is that duality that you see in your never take the extreme of like you know bludgeoning your way through things, but also don't sit there complacently on the other hand, just thinking, oh, the universe is benevolent and therefore I will just get everything in time, but I'm not taking any action towards it. That's just wishful thinking and sheer stupidity. um, you have to find that that healthy middle ground, which says basically go out, get what you want, but at the end of the day, which is the whole point behind performing rituals, behind performing magic, you put your intent in it, and then you let go, sit back, and you just let whatever you have done to make these things work, uh, it will cause this synchronicity in your life. So when Yura shows up, basically, in short, it is a caution and a celebration at the same time. Now, what would be an example of seeing Yura upright in your reading? A very basic example that I was thinking of as I was, meditating on this, writing the script for this, would be seeing it in the present slot, for example, of the reading that you're doing. You're working to build a business, for example. We're talking an actual physical store here, not like an online store. You have taken all the necessary steps in order to actually set up the business, like you rented a space for your store, you got all the necessary paperwork, uh, you got all the legal, technical stuff out of the way. But now you have to get to the hard part, which is build up a client. And in this case, you have sown the seeds. You are kind of already harvesting your efforts in the sense that your business has already started up, because that's part of your effort, right? You took the steps to get the store off the ground, to get it, legally approved, and now you have to get on the second part of the journey, which is build up the clientele. So your customer base could use some expanding. And in this case, you would cast a rune like, hey, what do I need to do to make my store a success? Jera would show up, and the surrounding runes would, in that case, probably indicate that you need to, communicate. So Ansus might show up to, show that there is a communication issue that you need to work on, which is in this case would be to, to literally communicate with people, to, spread your word out there, to advertise your store, to do all those kinds of things, get involved with people, So that's basically an example of how you might see Jera in effect. Now, the spiritual meaning of Jera upright to me, Jera signifies the continued growth of things. And by things, I mean everything, like people, relationships, situations, the world at large. And yes, that includes the very universe or multiverse or whatever you believe in. As mentioned, in the old ways, everything is thought of as a cycle, a never-ending journey where situations, lands, worlds, and even gods change. But they're always, you die a symbolic death when you learn something and you ascend to a higher understanding. But the death is never an end in and of itself, even a physical death. Everything is always an extension and continuation of what it was before. Everything becomes more than it was before. It is a continuation in a different shape, in a different form. And in this sense, Jera also, to me, represents the path of evolution. I'm talking actual physical evolution here, as a driving force behind all things, but also symbolic evolution. And this affects, even the gods. Because according to the mythologies, gods make mistakes, they learn, we go through those same cycles. We mess up, we learn things, and we then apply our lessons to, further our understanding. I mean, creation itself, in a way, seems to learn by cutting off things that it no longer needs. I mean, that's what physical evolution on this planet is, right? I mean, it does away with things that cannot adapt, and it just keeps the things that adapt, that are strong enough, strong-willed enough to survive. And I mean, to me, this is actually quite fitting because we all come from that same, source, from that same divine point of origin, the divine creator, supreme creator, source, whatever you want to call it. I mean, existence itself to me is a meditation of the creator upon itself. and in its very own existence. It evolves and expands as it must. It does away with what is no longer serviceable. Um, we must evolve spiritually as individuals in order for us to keep up with with this natural evolution that takes place on all planes of existence, and not just on the physical. We strip away old habits, old thought patterns, old beliefs, and this is a continuous, ongoing process that happens with everyone, or I would hope that it happens with everyone. And this is one of those main issues I have with organized religion, as a person, because everything is tradition, everything is dogma, nothing seems to, evolve, nothing seems to, there is a very slow to non-existent acceptance of changing realities, of changing times, of changing facts, even, things that were thought to be true turn out not to be true. Uh, I'm not going to name any specific things to avoid avoid starting discussions about things, because I overall want to keep these room videos rather neutral, because people might view this that have different beliefs than I, and I respect that. But the point basically to me is Jera symbolizes that cycle. It symbolizes everything that evolves, that grows, and sometimes, to grow, oftentimes to grow, one needs to suffer. One needs to, face unpleasant situations. One needs to, destroy a part of themselves or destroy something around them in order for you to uh, build back something that is better, something that is greater, something that is more powerful. Uh, you know, so basically, to me, Jera even teaches us to, to not fear death in that sense, because death is like I said, to me, to my beliefs, death is not an end. Um, you know, because death is merely a change. It is a another part of the cycle, and it goes on and on. And death is a topic that we will be discussing more thoroughly in the next room, IVAS, um, which is another topic that we will be going into there. And so I will, anyway. Jera converts. So Jera converts tends to be a warning, sometimes just a general notification that while it may seem you are reaching the completion of at least part of your goal, that the rewards that you are hoping to reap may not yet be earned, or that they are not yet in sight. You have not yet, achieved them. More work is, in general, when you see this room, required before you can consider this particular phase of your plan of your life, or whatever it is that you are inquiring about with your reading. For it to be completed, for it to reach at least a new milestone, so that you can continue on your journey with, better, while being better equipped, basically. Basically, converse here might mean that you're not as far along as you thought you were. And in this, it might be a grounding influence to your psyche to notify you of this. And say, hey, you think you're there? You're not. You're not yet. Keep working on it. It'll get there as long as you keep going on your path. However, on the flip side of that, and here's yet again where we see that duality, it might actually mean that maybe you're right now thinking, in the wrong direction, or you're path you're currently walking on might need some adjustments, or some hidden things might be uncovered, might need to be uncovered, excuse me, for you to, you know, get where you want to be, where you need to be. It might even be the case that you, after you analyze what this rune is talking about, might, completely change the path you're walking on, because it might just, be a dead end if you keep going like this. And alternatively, it could even refer to a hidden talent that one might have, whether that's you or someone that's involved with this particular question you're asking, something else that's buried below the surface that needs to come up first before things may progress along their, along their natural route, their natural state. And this could even be, as simple as saying, hey, I want to compose a piece of music, and then this rune might show up and be like, hey, if you want to do that, you first need more knowledge on how to compose, or learn how to read notes, or learn to play your specific instrument better. It might be as simple as that. It doesn't even necessarily have to be as complex and mind-altering and super spiritual and magical and mystical as as it may necessarily sound. I mean, the runes are nothing if not practical, and they're advice oftentimes. So, yeah. Example of Jera converse. For this, we'll take an alternative timeline. The example of the physical business that we mentioned in Upright Jera. So we're talking about a physical store, once again, not an online one. And we're starting up this store, right? So suppose you have officially started up your business in the appropriate ways, got all the legal stuff out of the way, and once again, you are in this position where you need to attract customers. However, in this case, you, the current, are horribly socially awkward. You have no social skills. You don't know how to talk to people, or even if you do, they could use some touching up, basically. The degree of severity of this issue, we'll leave that in the middle, but basically you need some people skills, some added people skills, in order for you to effectively get a store off the ground, to advertise yourself in whatever ways. So in this case, it could be that Converse Jera will show up, and it might just be saying to you, hey, take extra steps to allow your business to adequately grow. In this case, the issue might again be communication. Take communication classes, go to workshops, or even go into therapy if you have like some kind of social anxiety or whatever. Get that treated. Allow your mind to be tinkered with in such a way by a professional. I mean, how I study psychology. To allow yourself to be more open about your, about the things that you need to be open about. Be less held back. Be less fearful of other people, basically. So, the Jera converse spiritual meaning to me, it represents a need for inner spiritual work in order to attain one's goals. It signifies that the path you're currently walking on has, just not yet brought you the fruits of your labor that you may desire. And in some cases, as mentioned with the examples and the meaning in Divination, I feel it may, in some cases, just never bring it if you keep walking on the path you're on. Because, Jera, the transition from winter to spring, from stagnation to growth, continuation of your journey. Converse, you said to me, in a spiritual sense, would literally just indicate that, things might be growing wrong. They might be growing the wrong way, or just not growing at all. And, so far you may have walked well. It may seem that you're, going the right direction, but there might be some hidden issues, some hidden problems coming up soon or are already showing through the cracks, which basically are hampering, I should say, not allowing, hampering your progress on your path. So basically you've hit this spot, and that there might need to be a change of pace, a change of direction in order for you to grow, in order for you to expand. You might, have to uncover some hidden spiritual, magical talents, or even just mundane talents, in order for you to advance on your path. It could even represent some tinkering to your inner beliefs, because inner beliefs are a powerful thing. If you do not quite have the right mindset, the right drive to exert your will on the world around you, then this will excuse me, then this will hamper, your intent, and it will just basically affect everything you do, and not in a good way. So changing your inner beliefs, changing your core beliefs about who you are, about what you can do, about your own strength, about your own power, about your own, deservingness about your own, your own perception of the world around you, maybe even the perception that you have of people around you. Maybe they're not entirely in focus. Maybe they're not right perceptions, just perceptions. These are all things that you need to take into account when you're trying to influence the world around you. It might even go so far as to say, like, hey, don't limit yourself to just one particular path. Think outside the box a little. I might focus on the North Germanic stuff, but I have no qualms working with other deities, with other spirits. At the end of the day, I consider myself eclectic, and I'll call on whatever I need to call on to get the job done. I'll work with whatever path I can work with, want to work with, feel I should work with, if it means to achieve my needs, achieve my ends, achieve the goals I'm aiming for. So don't. Okay, Jera, in this sense, because it's all encompassing. It's the wheel. It's the whole year. Keep growing. Keep pursuing what you're pursuing. But be aware that sometimes you can make missteps, and in that case, redirect your energy, redirect your attention, redirect your growth. Go through the cycles you need to go through in order for you to reach the place that you need to reach. You're, at the end of the day, we're all souls, divine being. We're part of the source in the flesh, and you have what it takes to to reach the goals that you're pursuing. And this is something I have lately personally found a lot, is that what I definitely have been growing in is my own self-confidence, my own my inner strength, not feeling like I'm arrogant for wanting the right woman for myself, for wanting to have a comfortable financial situation, for all those things that I'm wanting, but that I feel like, oh, do I deserve it? Or that's how I used to feel. I have achieved a mindset where I'm like, yeah, I deserve these things. Everybody deserves these things. Unless they're like real horrible people, like whatever. But at the end of the day, basically what I'm trying to say here is, Era Converse might be an indicator that you may need to like alter your psyche a little bit in order for you to continue your growth, continue growing into cycles that you're supposed to be growing in. So yeah. that kind of concludes Jera. It also wraps up one half of the Elder Futhark with that. And as I mentioned, I will be doing a couple of other videos, which will likely be a little shorter. Not sure on that yet, though. I will see which video I do first. I'll just be putting them out as I feel like it. I don't want to rush myself. I mean, I'm in a full-time college, you know, doing a lot of other stuff with my time, doing my research into the, into the spiritual stuff, into the occult stuff, the magic stuff, you name it. I mean, I don't have a lot of time on my hands right now, so moments that I get to sit down and make these videos are quite few and far between right now. And on one hand, that's perfectly fine with me. On the other hand, there's the part of me that goes like, hey, I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy informing people of my personal interpretation, because once again, that is at the end of the day what these videos are. They are my interpretations, the way I learned to read the runes, and the way my meditations on them have at least part of the things I have learned through meditation that I'm putting in these videos as a 101 kind of guide thing. So please be patient with me, as you have already been, if you've come this far and watching these videos. I will be putting out the other half of the Elder Futhark. Have no fear. It might just, take a while, and I personally have no problem with that at this point, because, as I mentioned, there's just so much for me to do right now, and a lot of things that draw my focus, draw my attention. Thank you for bearing with me, basically. So I will see you next time in whatever video I am making after this, and if you have no interest in watching the particular videos, that is entirely up to you. And in that case, I will hopefully see you in the next Elder Futhark Divination 101 video on Ivas, the rune of death, as I have come to know it, or the U rune, if you will. And sometimes it's even known as the rune of protection. So I will see you then. Hail.